My name is Chris Hildebrandt, and on behalf of the Carney and the Dawson family, just like to thank you for coming to celebrate the life of Don Dawson and the memories that we have. First and foremost, Kelly said there's no crying allowed. Don wouldn't have wanted crying, so I'm just going to lay it right out there. No crying allowed. Nothing but good memories of Don. For the last 20 years, I was privileged to call Don my best friend. And I wish I could say that I was Don's best friend, but I think we all know that we were all Don's best friend. Whenever we were with Don, he always made us feel like we were the center of the universe. That's kind of how he was as a friend, as a father, as a husband. He always made you feel special. And so I think that's a lot of the stories we're going to hear today are the way that Don made us feel. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sheriff Balin to come up. He is the best sheriff in Nevada. You guys all know that. I'd like to ask him to please come up and say a few words.
Good afternoon, everybody. Kelly, Rebecca, and Sean, I want to thank you for asking me to offer a few brief remarks here today. I'm well aware my remarks offer little comfort in the sea of your sadness. However, I'm hopeful that today's celebration might bring a smile to your faces. In preparing to speak today, I came across a quote from Ernie Banks. The measure of a man is in the lives he's touched. Don touched the life of every person he came into contact with, from friends, co-workers, to the inmates who work for him. In April 2010, Don was hired by the Washington County Sheriff's Office as an inmate work program leader. Now, if you're not familiar with what that is, an inmate work program leader works with inmates on projects throughout the detention facility and the community. And it's quite a responsibility, and one that Don approached with joy and kindness. In October of 2019, Don's hard work and dedication paid off, and he was assigned to the Regional Public Safety Training Center and as the facilities coordinator. His dream job, according to supervisors. And I can tell you, since Don was there, our facility has never been as clean and upkept as it was when Don was there. He took great pride in making sure that facility was always tip-top. At the training center, Don had contact with many hundreds, literally hundreds of individuals who come to the center, from deputies, police officers, firefighters, to citizens in our community. Imagine how many conversations Don had with the people who came through that front door. How many lives did he touch? How many times did he speak with someone about his love for the outdoors? How many times did he speak with somebody about his family? How many lives he touched where the smile he offered or the hello was the best part of that person's day? An innumerable number of adventure. There is sadness today. There are also smiles. Smiles from some of the lives that Don touched throughout his time at the Washington County Sheriff's Office. And I hope maybe a smile for all of us when we hear some of those stories. On behalf of the Washington County Sheriff's Office, I offer my deepest condolences. Kelly, Rebecca, and Sean, I always want you to know that you will always be a part of the Washington County Sheriff's Office family. After all, the measure of a man is in the lives he touched, and you've touched ours. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. As they said, I'm Brooke Howard. I am so grateful to be a part of this celebration today, really recognizing the life of Don Dawson. Don and I started out where he called me the big boss. And I said, what, you call me fat? That's kind of nice. But he had a direct supervisor, and then I was a supervisor over that person. So they called me the big boss. I loved Don from the very beginning. He was a great person and became a great friend. Although extremely reserved if you did not know him, Don could be the life of the party with his quick wit and his not so PG humor. Right? Don had a gracious soul, as many of us know. He never met a person in need that he didn't find some way to help them. I hear parents say, you should never say that you have a favorite. And that's the same that goes for employees. But I have to say, Don was one of my very favorite work crew supervisors. He was always on time, if not early, professional, always asking what else he could do, rarely saying no, and always willing to help. I am responsible for coordinating our annual outreach programs, and Don played an instrumental part in all of them. One of those events was Christmas on the Corridor. This was one of those months in the making events. It required all hands on deck. Besides the multiple pickups, donation sorting, gift wrapping, and bag stuffing, Don always volunteered to play Santa. It never failed. Rain, sleet, snow, babies crying, and yes, some urinating on him. He never stopped smiling. He always had a great attitude and kept it moving.
You only dropped one.
Yes, I didn't say that, but yes, he did drop one. Death is never easy. Don did the very best he could, but he was sick. He fought his illness with everything he had, and many of us did the best we could with the tools we had. His memory shouldn't be tainted by the way he died, but it should be remembered by the way he lived. To Kelly, Becca, and Sean, Don brought so much joy to everyone. Becca, Don talked about you all the time. He was extremely proud of you. Don't forget that. Those of us who know Don well, at this point, he would have jumped up and had something funny to say to lighten the mood, because that's just the kind of guy he was. So in closing, I'll just say, so long, dear friend, until we meet again.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thank you, Sheriff Balaam and Brooke, for taking the pressure off of me. We're here today to celebrate the life of my friend and coworker for the past 9 years, Don Dawson. I was lucky enough to get to work with Don pretty much 6 days a week for over 7 years. In fact, we worked and did so much together that Kelly often called me Don's work wife. Although I didn't really see it that way. I think Don will look better in a dress and get a lot nicer legs than I did. I've lived and worked in this area for nearly 32 years, and I've worked with a lot of people, but none were quite like Don. He made coming to work a whole hell of a lot of fun, and never a dull day. And I know I wasn't the only one who felt that way. Some of my other coworkers, I'm sure, felt that way also. Don had what I'd call an addictive personality. He would always show up to work 45 minutes to an hour early, and some of my coworkers would get there early just to visit with Don before they started their shift, just so they could have a conversation with him. Don would make you laugh no matter what he had to say, and it would keep you laughing all day long. Something else I'll miss about Don are his pranks and his laughter. He definitely was the ultimate pranker, and I'm sure most of us were some of his victims. I got some examples to give. So at work, the vans we drive have red and blue lights and sirens. Well, since Don was there early, he'd jump into your van before you got there, hit the button to turn those on, turn your radio on full blast, and set it to every setting in the radio was set to the Spanish station, and he would turn the wipers on. So when you got in to turn the van on at 5:40 in the morning, all that went off, and he just sat there in his van, watched and laughed. And then there was one day, I was taking the crew out, and me and Don used to work at the animal control, help clean up, and I picked the crew up, and we were heading down the road, and one of my inmates goes, "Why is there dog poop on my seat?" And I go, "What?" And then another one goes, "Oh, I got dog poop too." So I pulled over, we get out, we're looking through the van, and it was, old, dried up stuff. It wasn't anything fresh or smelling. And we start looking, and we find a few more pieces. I go, yeah, good job, Don. I texted him and said, "Yeah, thanks. That's the best you can do." LOL. He sent me back a text, laughing. Well, a little while later, we're one of my guys has to on our trailers. We have outhouses. So one of the guys had to use the outhouse, and he comes over and gets me. He goes, "You got to come look at this." And I go, "What?" So I go in there and open the door and look inside there, and Dawn had filled a tank in the outhouse with dog poop. He must have been saving that for 6 weeks or something. At that point, I called Truce and told him he was the winner. There was a couple other things. We used to do work for Sparks Parks, and they would leave a garbage truck with us so we could throw stuff in it. But one day when he was working, he found this big giant piece of cardboard. So he takes a Sharpie out, writes "for sale" on the cardboard, and puts the Sparks supervisor's cell phone number on there, and parks it out next to Sparks Boulevard. A little while later, that supervisor calls Don and says, "What did you do?" I think Don got in trouble for that one. He also threw a live snake in one of the trucks, and I don't know if they ever found that one or not. But he also liked to, at every Halloween, he would hook a purse to a fishing pole. And he would throw that purse out in the street, and then he would hide behind a bush. And when somebody would go to grab that fishing or the purse, he'd start reeling it in and scare the hell out of them. Some people laughed, some people cussed at him. He still had fun. Like I said, there was never a dull moment with that guy. But I didn't just work with Don. I missed the days fishing out at Pyramid. I think that was his favorite spot on the whole entire planet. He loved that place, and he took a lot of us out there. Him and I never got skunked when we were out there fishing, but we had a few days where we didn't catch maybe one or two. And he would always say at the end of that day, "Doesn't matter. A bad day of fishing is still better than a good day of work." And he was right. Because you just got to sit there and BS with Don and have a few beers. We'd also go out dove hunting a few times in Yarrington, where I grew up, in one of his favorite spots up north called Newcomb Springs. He loved to hunt probably more than he loved fishing. Sorry, I didn't expect to win. But for me, hunting wasn't that great with Don. Once, he shot me. I'm pretty sure it was on purpose, but I'm not sure. But by the way I heard him chuckle, I'm pretty sure it was on purpose. And two, because I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And Don, you could probably blindfold, and he could shoot over his shoulder and still hit what he was aiming at. He was that good. I know Don, when he was living in California, was a hunting guide. And he used to talk about that all the time. And, a lot of his clients were doctors and lawyers. And I know he said he also used to guide for winemaker Robert Mondavi. And I think one of, it was either Ernest or Julio Gallo, was also one of his clientele. So if you had those guys, he had to be pretty good. I'm going to miss this guy, and I always will. But I kept the video of on my phone that Don sent me once, years ago, and it made me laugh. And it still makes me laugh, and I listen to it every once in a while. And mostly because it's classic Don. And I'll give a little intro to the video, and I'll play it for you. You just got to hear it. A couple of years ago, the space station was flying overhead. And Don was good with a chainsaw, fishing pole, shotgun, tractor. But he wasn't very good with a cell phone. So he's trying to film a space station, and you can hear Becca in the background. She's laughing. He drops the phone, and he laughs, giggles, starts cussing a little bit. I'll play that for you here in just a second.
Space station right there, folks. Sorry, folks. How you turn this thing off?
See, classic Don. I could stand up here for hours and talk about Don and all the things that made him great and pretty much a superhuman, but I don't have all day. If we were in a bar and I had to give Don a toast, it would go something like this. To Don, the best coworker anyone could ask for. To Don, the best friend anyone could ask for. To the ultimate prankster and the consummate sportsman. I'll miss you, buddy, till the day I take my last breath. Rest in peace. Thank you.
Now from Don's supervisor to his big supervisor, Brian. Are you guys seeing a trend here? Brian, could you please come up and say a few words?
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, my name is Brian Domunick, and I'm the director at the Regional Public Safety Training Center. I didn't know Don until he came to work for us over there. So my history is short and fantastic. But he really did, as the sheriff mentioned, take such pride in his work that it caught me off guard. As you can tell, I've been around a while. I've had quite a few employees in my day, but nothing like Don. And on the professional level, it's just hard to explain. The only time we ever had disagreements is when I was trying to send him home or tell him to slow down. We wanted him to start early, like Sean was saying, around 5:45 or 6. And no, he had to start at 4 a.m. So that was our first fight. 4 a.m., okay. But he wanted to get there before anybody else was so we can get it all squared away. As the sheriff mentioned, we train not only law enforcement, but a lot of fire. And even the private sector comes out there and trains. OSHA comes out for classes. We have every federal agency you can think of, all the acronyms, DEA, FBI, and so on. And Don made sure that everyone was set to go and it felt special. Notifying folks that Don wasn't going to be there anymore, I thought would be a fairly quick task. Though it just went on and on. He knew everybody, people I haven't even met yet. So on that part, it was fantastic. And he was quite the jokester. I always get back at him, though. I would have weekly meetings. We have a very small staff for a large facility, but we'd have weekly staff meetings, and that's how I got back at him. Seeing Don in the office was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever seen. As soon as he sat there, literally 2 seconds in, the leg starts going. Both legs start going. He's doing the collar. And finally, he's like, I got things I got to do. I'm meeting somebody. Who are you meeting? Somebody. And he's got to go. Same with trying to get him on the computer. Well, we have a lot of computer systems there, and we learned quickly. Stick to the power tools and stay outside. So he just made you feel like you knew him forever. We had a very short relationship, but our small office, he made everyone happy. And that's why we tried to get him in the office more often, just for the laughs. He was always good with a joke. As I said, a little maybe not PC, but we never got in trouble, so we had that going for us. But it was just a pleasure and an honor working with that gentleman. Like I said, I've never seen anything like it. So thank you for allowing us to have some time with them. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. Before I read a letter from one of Don's dear friends, Mikey Russell, we'll interject with a few Donisms. So I don't know if many of you know, but Don he named himself his own Native American name. And for those of you that know Don, it's the perfect name. He called himself Runs with Scissors. Yeah, that is Don. So right now I'd like to read a letter from Mikey Russell, who met Don back in 1988, and he's got most of his grammar correct here, so I think I should be able to read this. So Mikey first met Don during the duck season of 1988. Both of us were barely into our early 20s. In those days, we knew him by his nickname Roscoe. I remember the event because it was one of those many where he had me laughing out loud by the end of the conversation. We were in the parking lot of a hunting area the night before the hunt. I was trying to sleep in my truck with a loud party, which he was part of, going on in a camper nearby. The end result, of course, was me ending up involved in the party and with a new unforgettable friend. In the years that followed as young adventurous men, there were many ridiculous and nearly dangerous times as we wandered around. These usually began with him saying, "Mikey, hey, you gotta try this, come on. Mikey, hold my beer and watch this." So in those, I learned things like the fine art of water skiing in irrigation canals while being towed behind his truck. We learned how to smooth talk our way out of speeding tickets and how to convince game wardens that we were in fact allowed to be hunting on certain places that maybe we shouldn't have. No one got hurt, and we never landed in jail. We developed a lot of harmless slang, lingo, and sayings that we would absolutely crack ourselves up over, that left everyone else wondering what the heck was so funny. Throughout all of this, there were many things about Don's personality that stood out. The big one, he was by far one of the most resilient men I've ever met. I watched him change careers about 3 times over a long period and deal with a couple of serious life events. Each time, with his strong work ethic and his genuine can-do attitude, he excelled. As a young kid with a beginner retail job, he was managing the store in no time. When he started helping out on a duck club, he ended up managing 2 large properties with all of those, 3 total, with all of those huge responsibilities with a couple of short years. Always moving up, never letting a fail hold him back. When he came to Reno, I can't describe how excited he was when he got the inmate worker leader job, and especially how proud he was to be promoted into the training center coordinator position. In these recent few years, due to distance and life, our contact was mainly through a lot of phone calls. But that was okay. In those conversations, I learned about many things, such as how proud he was of Becca, or when she kicked some butt in basketball, how fulfilled, bonded with, and the true love he felt with Kelly, how happy he was that Sean was doing so well, how much he loved his job, partners, and co-workers with Washoe County. Many good things he told about all of you and his trips out to Pyramid Lake. And of course, in these conversations, just like the old days, we end up way off topic, laughing about something probably inappropriate and ridiculous and definitely not PG, as Brooke said, that happened years ago. The last phone call I had with him on January 15th ended up the same, both of us cracking ourselves up. Like all of you, a large part of my heart went with him, and I'll never completely understand all of the whys. I just hope that we never forget his unforgettable personality, his resiliency and drive, and the love and good times he wanted for all of us. I would like to invite up any other family that would like to come up and say some words.
Don was my son-in-law, and I can only say good things about him. I never had a son of my own. I have 2 beautiful daughters, but Don was my son, and I can honestly say I loved him very, very much. And he gave me back up my only granddaughter, who was also named after me. He was kind enough to name her after me. So I feel very, very privileged to have had him for a son, and I miss him very, very much. Thank you.
Mr. Sean Hubbard.
How you doing, everybody? My name's Sean. I'm a stepson. He's been in my life since I was about 8 years old, and I always remember, telling my mom, "Nobody's ever good enough for you. You're my mom. Nobody's good enough." And then Don came around, and I'll never forget the day that I met him. He had no idea who I was. I didn't know who he was. He came to my mom's apartment one day, and he bought me a BB gun. All right, cool. BB guns. I like guns. Where are we going to go shoot it at? Right here. Here. It's in the living room of my mom's apartment. No, we're good. Okay. So we sit in the living room, and through the hall is a sliding glass door. and then out into the balcony. We're up on the second story. And he put so much trust in me that I could shoot a target this big, first time shooting a BB gun, 8 years old, and not go into the pond where people are walking and running around the background. And luckily I hit it. He's like, I see good things in you. That was my first memory with him. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. As far as pranks goes, he taught me a lot, which I'm going to use on my friends for the rest of my life. If it wasn't for him, I'd probably be dull and boring. I'll never forget waking up 3:30 in the morning, getting ready to go duck shooting, and I'd wake up to pots and pans, blaring, waking up me and my friends, shaving cream in my shoes. I don't have any shoes to wear to go duck hunting. Well, figure it out. All right. Dawn was a great husband to my mom. I couldn't have picked anybody better. I say I pick. You didn't pick him. I did. He's a great father to Becca. Great stepdad to me. I've learned life goals. Excuse me. I'm losing my train of thought now. That's all. Thank you.
It's time to come back up when you think of the dirt. We want to hear some dirt. There's some dirt on Don. Come on. He had it on all of us. You got to start sharing some. Any other members of the family that would like to come up? Come on up, Caroline.
Let me get a tissue. Hold on. Take that on my bra. Okay, I don't have mine written down. My name is Caroline Dawson. I'm Don's sister. So there's no one more genetically like him than I am. I was thinking about that on the drive up. We're full brother and sister. And, there was never a time when we were without each other, right? Growing up, I was 1 year behind him. So when I was born, that was when I met him, 1969. So I think I beat a lot of you guys, except for my older sister. Yeah, older. Anyway, we were just best buddies when we were kids. He was a beautiful soul, even when we were just so little, and we just loved each other, and we're just together all the time, till he was about 9. And I think, where's the picture where he's fishing? I think he's 7 there. I think that's when he was 7. When he was 9, the reason we were no longer side by side was because the energy you guys talk about finally took hold in him for real. That guy would get up in the morning, ride his bike out into the country, fish all day long, and come home at the end of the day. That started when he was 9 years old. That's the last time I saw him, seriously. But I'm laughing about the pranks. Thank God that was something that happened after high school, because I couldn't have handled that, because my anxiety would have been too high for that to work for me. But he was just such a loving brother, and we just were crazy about each other. His energy was very interesting. In our younger years, I don't know if you'll understand this, but he couldn't sit still. And I know, I'm joking, right? That guy could not sit still from day one, and it made school difficult for him. He could not sit still. I could sit still. A bag of Oreos and a gallon of milk, I was good for 24 hours, right? So, I was a natural in school. School was hard for him because he was always getting in trouble. He was he's getting detentions, principal's office, yelled at by teachers, you name it. But we did good. We had a good time in elementary school. I was always 1 year after him. So he'd have a teacher, and then I'd have a teacher, and then the teacher would look at the two of us and wonder, what's going on here, right? These kids are the same, but very different. Elementary school was great. We went to junior high. That was a hellhole. I mean, I don't know how we made it out alive. Seriously, junior high was terrible. But by the time we got to high school, something great happened. We both had the best time at Las Vegas High School. But the reason I say it was great was because he had struggled all those years. Back then, teachers didn't work with kids like that. They punished them. And so I know when he was going into high school, he was wondering what was wrong with him. But he was lucky enough to meet up with this teacher named Jimmy Orr, who was the ag teacher. And he saw in by the way, I'm saying Roscoe. He ditched that name by the time he turned 18, and he asked everyone to stop calling him that. But as his baby sister, I refused. So I continue to call him Roscoe, and I will always do so. So back to it. So he met up with this high school ag teacher who changed his life because the ag teacher saw just how smart he was. And I don't know if people know how smart my brother was. He was extremely intelligent, but you wouldn't think that about him because he was so energetic and funny. You can't be that funny without being as smart as he was. Very intelligent. And so what had happened to him in high school, and this was going to be guiding the trajectory of his life, he figured out that he needed to be busy. The ag teacher put him to work and had him doing stuff that required a lot of thought, a lot of critical thinking, using that brain, and being physical all the time. He's driving cattle over this way, he's showing critters at the fair, he's welding stuff, he's fixing stuff, he's planning things. Before he had a driver's license, this guy was on the move all 4 years in high school, FFA, loved Future Farmers of America. It made him into the great man you guys are all familiar with. I'm telling you, that molded him into just the best. And it really helped him to figure out, I think, as an adult, that in his career, he needed to be active and he needed to have things to think about. So that was like a combination for him. And I think every one of the jobs that made up his entire career did that for him. And he seemed quite happy to me in all of the work he did, and he seemed grateful to get up. And I'm laughing about the 4 a.m. I do that. And as I was saying earlier, we're more genetically alike than anyone. If he were a girl, this is what he would look like. Right here, we are the same. And I just, I'm loving to hear these stories because as an adult, I wasn't with him. And so I'm like, oh, this is so great. And I'm just, just so grateful that I had him as a brother. But I have to tell you a few things. First of all, the prank thing he didn't do. So thank God that was later because I couldn't my anxiety couldn't handle it. But I had a 10-minute rule with Roscoe. And I finally figured this out. Probably took me about 10 years ago, I figured it out. No matter what, no matter how much I wanted to see my brother, and no matter how excited I'd be if he were coming to Merced or we were coming this way, I'd have butterflies, and I was just adored him and I loved him. And really, sorry to my other siblings, he just was it, my world. But I got to tell you, within 10 minutes of us being together, he would be doing some nonsense that would just take me to the edge. For example, within 10 minutes of arriving at my house, he would be on my roof jumping into my swimming pool. And my stomach's like sick, right? Watching my brother do this. Or wrapping up in bubble wrap and rolling himself down a mountain to see if he could survive. It was constantly that all the time with this guy. So I had to learn a strategy with my girls. I'd say, when Uncle comes, I want you to time it 10 minutes and then get his ass away from me. Because, that was what our that was how I figured out how to deal with him, because otherwise we'd be duking it out, at some point, because he'd drive me crazy. But I don't know if I've ever loved anyone as much as I've loved him. We were like a set of twins. And, as we got older, I really saw how wonderful he was through the eyes of my daughters. I have 3 girls. 2 of them I made, and 2 of them some nice lady made, or one of them a nice lady made for me. So we have these 3 girls. Uncle Roscoe is their favorite. And one of my favorite stories, I guess this is a prank, but the prank was on me, but I don't think he intended it to be, because we didn't have a sibling rivalry. We just, we loved each other, and we just kind of let each other do it. We didn't compete. So I don't think he was trying to torture me, but the girls, we'd come here, and the girls were staying with Roscoe and Becca and Kelly, and I think it was like 2 days. So he decides that he's going to scare the girls for 2 days with that gorilla mask right there. And the girls were young. And so we go to pick them up, and they get in the car, and they're all excited, talking about how he had been scaring them for 2 days with the gorilla mask. And what he didn't know was the baby, for 2 years, any noise, she wondered if the gorilla was coming for her. And if that girl didn't sleep in my bed for an entire year after that, I could have got him. So what I decided to do, I spent about 2 years planning what I was going to do to Becca. I'm sorry, you know I love you. What I was going to do to Becca to get him back, right? And guess what? I couldn't come up with anything because we didn't do pranks on each other. I was just like an accidental victim of the prank against my girls with the gorilla mask. But so I could never follow through. And good one, because now I really can't get him back at all, right? Nice, right? He won on that one. I cannot return the favor on the gorilla mask and the scare. But you know, I want you to all know that this was a man, and as a child and as a man, he loved his family and his friends. And I love the thing about he was my best friend, but everybody was his best friend. That is so right. He just loved his friends. And he would tell all these great stories about, well, as much as he could tell me, you know. I didn't know everything about him. I mean, how can you know everything about someone else? I don't even know everything about myself. So I know there's a lot there that I didn't understand. But I can tell you that I was so grateful to have him all the years that I did. And I would have loved it for him to be 101 and me to be 100, and it had ended that way. But it didn't. But I'll take the years that I had with him. He was loving, and he really did, you know, he was one of the best friends I've had. And I'm sorry to Kelly and Becca and Sean, because I know that he was part of the four of you, and that the hole that you must have with him gone must be amazing. And all I can pray for is this, that as time goes by with each day, that you have less pain. And I hope the same for all of us. And that he, you know, that his memory will become funny and not sad. That we'll always laugh about the gorilla mask, or, you know, jumping off the roof, or whatever that is, and that we won't cry over him anymore. And I pray that for all of us. And I just want you to know that no one could know how much I loved him, and I miss him.
Thank you, Caroline, for those awesome memories. Any other members of the family that would like to come up and say a few words? Old Squawk, come on up, buddy.
Hi everybody, my name's Brad. I'm Don's nephew from California. I actually didn't even know his name was Don until I was about 16. Seriously. And I just want to share a funny story. Every Black Friday we'd get together when he would come into town for Thanksgiving. My dad lived in Merced, and we went out Black Friday, and there's a long-tailed duck called an Old Squaw that came through. It's pretty rare. And he's just like, damn, dude, I'm 50 years old. I've never seen one. Nephew, you shoot it. I missed all 3 shots on the water. This thing flies away. Wake up in the middle of the night. Chris was over there. We were having a couple of beers. I woke up and go in the bathroom, and on the mirror it says Old Squaw across my forehead. They wrote it backwards so I could read it. And you look over at that picture, that water trough, that's Newcomb Springs. They were talking about earlier. We went camping there in September for some doves and washing my feet off in there. And all of a sudden, I see a big splash. Dawn shot a beanbag at my feet. It had me dancing.
Any other members of the family that would like to come up?
I'll get there. Okay. So, Don was my uncle, and my name's Kofax. I was his nephew, and Don was my uncle. And in my part of the family, we have one rule: don't listen to Uncle Don. And one of the stories that I remember that fully exemplified this was, so we rented a houseboat, and Don, of course, was jumping off the very top of it, right into the water. And he got my mom to do it. And she ended up bursting her eardrum because of the pressure, because she went so far down. And that was the day that rule was created. And the gorilla mask, that, in my opinion, I'd say that was his favorite object in the entire house. He would go and he would change into a different person, and there's a group of people in our family we call the Silverbacks, and he was part of that. And we just had a good time with that. And we had a family lip sync for Christmas, and there's a picture right there of him in Amish gear because he did a parody of "Gangsta's Paradise" by Weird Al. And Don, I'll never forget him. He's the true definition of what an uncle is. Somebody who has fun with you and just kind of crazy and still teaches you a lot about who you are. And that's just who Don was to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Any other members of the family or friends that want to come up and say a few words? Timmy.
All right, I bet you're all wondering why I asked you to be here today. I've known Carney's, he would have, yeah. I've been a member and part of the Carneys for a very long time. In fact, two of my best friends are sitting back there, and that's where it started for me. I was talking with Kelly, I don't know, a week ago, maybe. We're sitting in the backyard and kind of talking about today, and like I really literally had no idea what to say, like how to start it, anything. I've just known everybody for so long. One of the earliest memories of Don I have is I think this is when I met him, I'm not sure, but we're at the Italian festival downtown, and being with everybody else, you know, I knew half of the people there and didn't know Don, and like every other time I would turn around or something, he's flipping me off. And I'm like, what the crap is this? And I asked my friend Casey, I'm like, hey man, what did you guys tell him? Like, is like something going on? Like he doesn't like me, or but like every other time, it's flipping me off, and I'm like, oh, okay. I actually a couple of years ago went with him fishing and talked to him about it, you know, just, hey man, what the crap was, what were you doing? I'm like, what did I do? And he's like, oh no, I'm just saying hi. I'm like, oh, okay. Kind of odd to me. Normally I should say, hey buddy, or do something like that. But that was Don's way of saying hi and hey, I'm Don. And the fishing trip was partially successful. For me, it was very successful. Just in one of the aspects, we had a real good heart-to-heart that day, like just real deep, and really I got to know him a little bit better. You know, everybody, as far as Kelly and everybody goes, my friends and all that, we always have each other's backs, and maybe to tag a little bit on that gorilla mask about the silverbacks and everything else, and that's what we were, that's what we are, that's what I think it means as far as family, being there, having each other's back when things get hard or weird, or we need to move a hot tub or something, or anything. Yes, Don was always there. Don was always ready. I think he always volunteered first. I'm not sure. Sometimes, you know, I would hear about things later or whatnot. Working with them, I do grounds maintenance at the Air Guard base, so every now and then I would have him and work crew inmates coming in, sometimes Sean and everything, and hey, I'm gonna pick on the guys, like just tell them, you know, the Air Force guys are looking for him, and you know he's got a van full of work crew, you know, and hey, is he really gonna? Are they really looking for us? And like, I don't know, man, but if Don said, you know, just if you got to hit the deck, here comes the Air Force guys, just do that. And he'd be laughing because every now and then we would have some of our airmen come by and they would just get scared. And like, no, it's okay, dude. Just keep working. You got it, man. No, Don was halfway serious, but it's cool, man. Go ahead. Thinking about today, I kind of dreaded it, like being up here, like the past 2 weeks, thinking of what to say, and everybody has just actually said, I think what we know of Don, and that's I think one of the greatest blessings I have is knowing him and the family and being there for, you know, the good times, the bad. Unfortunately, I missed the last Christmas trip. Well, the last Christmas, yes, the one before at the cabin, I didn't make it. I was in school, I was busy. So this Christmas actually, yes, was very such a blessing to be there, to have us all there, the group, family, and I'm actually very fortunate that I call everyone my family, through blood, sweat, and tears. Man, we've done a lot, and that's one of the greatest things I've always can remember from Don and being there. And now, mind you, we don't get to go frog gigging or whatnot, because I was actually supposed to help him build a boom for the truck, so we could go frog gigging, but we'll have to work on that and get that done for him while he's not here. That's all I got, everybody.
Yep, probably good to leave those things down now. Would anybody else like to come up and say a few words?
I hate to do this because I'm hard to hear, so, but, one funny thing, my parent, Kelly, first started dating Don was before my surgery. They came over for dinner. We had a nice dinner, we had drinks, we were all saying goodbye. We couldn't find Don, it's like, where'd he go? I had a swimming pool at the time. We looked out the windows. Don was in his underwear on the diving board, about to jump in. And my husband and I just met him. Like, reasonably calm dinner with him, where he was very, like, we didn't know that he would go do that. And I was like, to Billy, I'm like, what the fuck? What are you're marrying this guy? So, I had a major brain surgery, as you can see, and it was in Stanford, and Kelly and Don ranked Justine, so they drove over, and the night before my surgery, they came and took me out to dinner. So there's the last people I saw before this major surgery. And Kelly would always come see me, and I think I'm the reason I couldn't leave the hospital unless somebody would take care of me. And Kelly's my oldest friend, and she would come do it, so Don allowed her. They pulled up stakes out of Justine and moved to Reno, and Kelly took care of me. And granted, this uprooted their whole life. Here they are in Reno with no jobs, no nothing, taking care of me. And Don did rebuild a beautiful life here, obviously. And Don always made me feel beautiful and loved and cared for. He even took me looking for duck hunting blinds one time. And I would know hunting, like the end of the rifle you shoot at it. He took me anyways, and it was a great time. But anyways, I wouldn't be here without the two of them. She's my angel. I will miss him forever. He is a lovely human.
Would anybody else like to come up and say a few words? Lauren, come on up.
Yeah, Lauren Report. Live up in Montana now, but I was Don's neighbor for about 10 years, if you can believe that. That was a fun time, as you can tell. But yeah, if we weren't hunting, fishing, blowing up Caroline and Rich's mailboxes or whatever it was out there, fireworks mortars. Yeah, settling bombs. Yeah, that never happened. Yeah, that didn't happen. No, but anyhow, no, it's a lot of people probably don't know. I mean, Don Dawson was probably, I will call him the best duck hunter I've ever known, and that's saying something. That's saying something. Don Dawson was, I mean, the best duck hunter I've seen in the world, and that's, you know, we've come across a lot of them, both Chris and I. But the other thing too, he was the wetland manager. Caroline was talking about farming and all the future farmer stuff. I mean, he was truly a duck farmer. That's what he did. And I mean, he would disc up the marshes, bird them. You know, we were all out there helping him do it. But he was, I'm telling you, my travels as a biologist, he is the best wetland manager in the nation I've ever met. You know, so it was pretty phenomenal to get to learn from him and know that stuff. So, but no, he'll be sorely missed. I mean, yeah, like you say, just all the antics, dead fish under your seat when you get in the morning. It's 110 degrees. Just, you name it, right? It's like it was constant. But I mean, one of the other big things he did. I mean, we had 4th of July parties in Gustine, and basically we'd go catch frogs all night long to do the frog jump. It's something he just loved. He just absolutely loved it. But something we just did for, gosh, you know, was it 12, 15 years, I bet, you know, down there. So, you know, that was exciting. But yeah, I'm gonna blow on his cherished duck calls. I feel weird doing it. Because those are like Don Dawson's the baddest calls ever. A DR85 duck call. So.
Explain to them how the silver is.
Yeah, so the silver is all the bands over time he's shot. I mean, that's a handsome collection. You can imagine since the 80s till up through, you know, whenever current. But mallard bands, wood duck bands, gadwall bands, that's what all this silver is right there. But yeah, hold on to this. Right one here.
Dirtiest one.
What's that? Yeah.
Dirtiest
this
one.
got the most chew in it. That's what I got.
Nice job, Lauren. One of the best callers that I know, especially with speckle bellies. Would anybody else like to come up and say a few words? Awesome. And then after this one, I have another funny story.
Becca's crying.
So I'm Megan. Kelly's my cousin, but more like my sister. We were raised together. Our families did everything together. She's one of the single most important people in my life. So also Dawn was. So I have two stories about Dawn. One is just a repeat of everything that everybody said, and the second one is going to ruin his reputation with everyone. I'm also Koufax's mom, so I'm the one who had the broken eardrum because I was like, Uncle Don's the coolest, I'm gonna do it too. And then he is right. It was that day I said, rule number 1, we don't listen to Uncle Don. So my first story is we own a little cabin up at Lake Almanor, and my husband was across the country a couple years ago, and we'd had a horrible snowfall. And I went up there to check it out with my kid, and the snow had totally just taken off the entire chimney. So I have a huge hole in my roof. And I have nobody to call. Like, I'm pretty handy, but I don't know what to do about a hole in the roof. So I called Don immediately. He had just gotten off work. He drove the 2 hours because that's who he is. And he gets up there, and we get up there and we're cutting shit off and sitting up there, and I'm like, well, what do I do to cover it? Like, I just need to cover it until we can figure out how to fix it. I think I'm really handy. I'm really not, and Don doesn't always communicate super clearly. So he's like, here's what you do. You go down to the Ace. You buy some of this shit, I can't remember the name, this black shit, I don't know. You like slap it on. It's like tar. It's like tar. You just ask them about it. They'll know exactly what you're talking about. It's like tar. It's thick. We'll just slap it on there. So I go to the Ace Hardware, and I said, okay, I'm here because my brother-in-law told me I have to buy some black shit that you slap on a roof. I don't really know what I'm doing. The guy totally knew what I was talking about. Cut me a piece of metal. We get back up there. By the time we were done, like, both of us, of course, have tar everywhere because that's also who Don was. It's never clean. I'm sure I have tar that's now in my wood-burning stove. Like, it's everywhere. But that is exactly just who Don was. I knew at any moment, if I needed anything, he was the guy. Sorry, that was gross. So this next story is when we were on that said houseboat where I burst my eardrum, Don, he'd get up super early, he'd go fishing all day, he'd be out in his little floaty with his thing around the houseboat, and he caught, like, I swear to God, the biggest fish in Mount Shasta. Like, it was humongous. I'm not kidding. Like, this is not a fisherman's lie. It was this big. It was huge. And I respect hunters and fishermen, but I don't have the heart for it. I just can't. And so he brought it. It was still alive. He puts it in the little fish keeper in the boat. And I see it, and I start bawling because I can only think of, good Lord, that thing is so old, it probably has grandchildren swimming around, and those other fish just need it. And he looks at me, he's like, why are you crying? I go, well, I'm just thinking about all of the fish that will miss him when he's gone, and he's so old, and he made it this long, and you cut it. Don let the fish go. I came down about an hour later, and it wasn't there, and I was like, what did you do with the fish? I let it go because you were so upset. And then I cried because he had a fish this big and he didn't keep it for himself. But that also was Don. And so as much as he loved fishing and as much as he loved hunting, he loved his family more.
With Don and I both moving away from California, me to Southwest Montana, and Kelly and Becca and Sean to Reno, we didn't get to prank each other in person all that much. So texting on April 1st became our MO every year. So 2 years ago, 2019, I went for the jugular. I texted him on early morning, April 1st, which happened to coincide with near the opener of the fishing season at Pyramid. I said, Don, man, sorry to hear they closed the season at Pyramid this year due to the, apparently the Clostridium volitionarium disease got in the fish. They're going to close it down for a year. Man, I know how much you love fishing out there. I'm so sorry to hear that. And totally nailed him. He texts back, you're like, no way. And he's, bleep this, bleep that sucks. And I waited a little while and then texted back, April Fools, buddy. He was probably never so happier after I texted back. So, anybody else would like to come up and share some stories? Becca, come on up, darling.
Hi, I'm Becca, and Don was my dad. And I've known him for 15 years, my whole life. And we've had a lot of experiences. One of my favorites is I had this doll, and it was purple, and it was like really, really fat. And my dad looked at it, and he's like, you should name it Baby Beefy. So I would walk around when I was like, what, 2 or 3, with this huge purple doll named, it was bigger than me, it was named Baby Beefy, and I'd go in the backyard, I'd dig a hole, and I'd put the doll in the hole, and then like a day later I'd dig it back up, and then it's just repetitive. I would do the same thing over and over again. And then when we moved out of the house downtown, I lost it, and I don't know where it went. But also, when we lived in that house, I had a hamster, and I named it Dora because I was obsessed with Dora. But my dad's like, you should name it Gucci. So we settled with Dora Gucci. So I had a hamster named Dora Gucci. But see, they told me it ran away because I used to leave the cage open. But they lied. My cat ate it. Yeah, and every time I'd come home from school, like junior high or high school, he'd always he'd always bring home, he'd always make ramen for me because that was my favorite. He'd always everything, like every food that I had a phase with, he'd just make it after I got home for my friends because they'd like come home with me, and he was just the nicest person ever. And like with Sean, he would prank them when we had sleepovers. He'd like to use the duck calls a lot. Those duck calls in specific. He'd walk in and he'd blow into it really hard, especially with Carly and Alexis. And especially with the gorilla mask. It wasn't just the gorilla mask. He had a pup dress. He had a lot of costumes, MC Hammer, everything. He had almost everything in his closet, and I'm pretty sure, I don't remember, he had this shirt, and it had an eagle on it that said America. And when we were cleaning out Dad's closet, Mom found it, and she's like, I've never been so happy to throw this thing away. Yeah, he's just the best father anybody can ask. I'm glad I'm not glad I'm sad that he's gone, but I'm gonna remember him for the rest of my life. Yeah.
Rebecca, you can certainly always consider me an adopted dad, and same with you, Sean. And Kelly, you'll always be a dear friend.
I'll always have the shotgun ready.
That's right. Would anybody else like to come up? All right.
My name is James Davis. Obviously, I'm with the county. I teach a lot up at the training center, and I got to know Don. And he was a special guy there. And being here and being able to hear all of you talk about him, it just makes me admire him even more. One of my best memories with Don, working at the range, one of the worst parts about teaching at the range is always picking up all the brass. When you have 20 shooters on the line shooting for 8 hours a day, it's a lot of brass. And it would take a lot of time. And when Don came to work with us, he told us to stop picking up the brass. And we're like, Don, there's a lot of brass. And he's like, no, you're taking away my workouts. I'm going to be here in the morning. Leave the brass. I'm going to get it. And he would roll the range every day. And every single day that we came to the range, we had a clean range ready to go. Looking around today, there are not a lot of uniforms here today. And that is unfortunate because Don was not known personally by many of us. But Don touched every single one of us. There's not a firefighter, there's not a law enforcement officer in the greater Washoe County that he did not directly impact by his work, most recently there at the training center. There's not a part of the training center that I can look at that Don did not improve, and usually it was something that happened overnight. As soon as it was brought up, it was done, and it was done beyond possible expectation. So from the members of the Sheriff's Office, I know that the Sheriff's is already here, but from us on the line, we thank you for having shared Don with us. We thank you for the time he spent with us, and truly, I am better for having known him and hearing how he has been with his family. As a father, I truly hope to be like Don and be able to dedicate so much time to my family and so much time to my work, and make everyone that I impact as special as Don has done with all of us here. So thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Come on up.
Hello, my name is Kai. I was lucky enough to be Don's nephew and to be able to call him my uncle. One thing I can say about Don, I'm sure we can all agree on, is he knows how to make any experience memorable. I remember he taught me and helped me catch my first fish with Becca. We went down to 7-Eleven and got slushies. I went and fished, and I remember reeling it in, and I was like kind of squeamish at the time. I'm like, ew, blood, slimy, and Becca's like, you're such a baby. I can say Don took so much pride in you. You're the bravest, coolest lady ever, and it's all because of your amazing parents. It's so awesome. And I can say, I remember when we got home and put the fish in the freezer and I was scared to touch it, and Don to get me to be less squeamish, tells you to pick up the fish and chase me around the house and smack me with it. I can say he had so much trust in you. Like when he let you drive the golf cart and you ended up driving him over, running him over in the golf cart. And it was just, I can really admire his work ethic too. He went to sleep at 6 or 7 p.m. and I'd sleep in till like 3 or 4. So when I seen him, I love having conversations with him, and he knew how to make any conversation so funny. His quick wits and humor. He'd just jump in and say something out of nowhere and make everybody in the conversation laugh. And I just thank him for all those memories. And when I heard about Don's passing, I was in Panama City Beach, Florida, starting my trip across the country. And I can say it was the most beautiful sunset I ever saw. And I've seen him in the clouds, I saw it. It made me so happy to have a final goodbye with him. The last memory I have with Don is him driving me to the airport at 4 in the morning to catch a flight. And I'll never forget that big old bear hug before I left for the terminal. And I thank him so much. And I'm so happy, Kelly, you chose him. And Sean for choosing him. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. So on canal skiing, I was on the piece of plywood in the canal being pulled by the truck, and I was trying to dodge some growth that was in the water. Next thing I know, the truck is no longer visible on the canal bank, and progress stopped. And Lauren comes climbing up over. Lauren was in the back of the truck. Lauren comes climbing up over the bank, and he's like, "We got a problem." Anyway, I'm not going to finish the story, but you guys probably know what happened. Another funny one. Would anybody else like to come up and say some words or share some awesome stories about Don? All right. Well, I think I would love to invite Kelly up here. And then I think after that, we'll just kind of keep the mic up here. And if someone wants to come up and share a story, just come up and do it on your own.
I've wrote this 1,000 times. But the only thing that we can say is he loved life. He made life better. He wanted everybody to get along. He wanted everybody to help each other. He wanted everybody to be happy. And he did. He made everybody happier. I can't read this, but there is a poem. You can shed tears because they are gone, or you can smile because they lived. You can close your eyes and pray they will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all they've left for you. Your heart can be empty because you can't see them, or you can be full of the love you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live for yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember only that they are gone, or you can cherish their memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind and feel empty, or you can do what they want. Smile, open your heart, love, and go on.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, I'm going to turn the mic off, but I'm going to leave it up here. And if anybody would like to come up and share a story, just do so at free will. And let's all do what Don would have wanted and get together, catch up, share stories, and share our love for each other. Okay, and you guys have seen all these awesome pictures up here. If you've got some really cool memories in some of these pictures, Kelly would like for you guys to come up and grab one and take them home.
You hadn't met a stranger either. He had that way about making you feel instantly connected to him. He had that very magnetic, youthful energy and enthusiasm that we lose as we get older. Don never lost it. He lived to entertain and make people happy. He always made sure everybody was having fun. Made you feel good about life. He was a little wild, a little crazy, but always fun. In retrospect, he reminded me of Robin Williams. I read something that really struck a chord with me. I'd like to share it. Suicide is not selfish. Suicide is death caused by the illness of depression. It's the final symptom. The final collapse under unbearable weight. Suicide is a tragedy. If you've never been close to that edge, try not to judge what you can't understand. Don's generosity knew no bounds. He also had a good way of getting you to spill the beans, even when you didn't want to. One time he got me to spill the beans about how my wife at the time was unhappy with how much money I was making with my computer business. And I just got done working on his computer. And before you know it, Don's on the phone calling all his friends. Hey, you need some computer work done? No, well, here's the guy you need to call. Here's this guy that will do it for you. You know, if you don't need it, here's his number and all that stuff. And in between the phone calls, he's trying to talk me into working on this electric gate. And I'm like, Don, I don't work on electric gates, you know. I don't care. Go out there and look at it. You know, it's got computer chips in it. You know, you're a smart guy. You'll figure it out. No, I can't. You know, and you know, but he made me go out there and look at it. You know, that's the kind of guy that Don was. Super generous. The best friend you could ever ask for. Everybody should have in their life.